Hey there, spooky crew! And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jacqueline, and this is Makeup Tales. On Tuesdays, I bring you spooky narrations while I complete a makeup look. And on Thursdays and Saturdays, I bring you just spooky narrations. If you're interested in makeup and you love spooky content, I suggest you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you know when I post a new video. Also, leave a comment down below. Tell me your favorite story or what makeup look you would like me to complete. This week, I bring you a story by Reddit user After Trench. If you're interested in checking out the story on your own, the link is in the description below. Disclaimer: the following story is intended for a mature audience and may contain graphic depictions, death, gore, sexual themes, and adult language. Viewer discretion is advised. I met Dave _2011 on a generic MMORPG back in 2011. I was entering high school as a freshman around that time, surrounded by a haunting rumor. Seniors would allegedly shove new kids into a locker to establish a hierarchy of some sort. I morphed into a reluctant, shy kid who avoided all cliques that the school had to offer. When the 3 p.m. bell rang, I would hurry back home and enter the virtual world that meant so much to me. I started out by playing popular games, but soon realized I would become a number in a massive player base. I was scared to death attempting to interact with classmates in school, but I still yearned for some meaningful relationships. In these AAA games, I noticed players usually had their own parties and clans of people they met in school or work. It merely mirrored the real world. To be frank, being that player number 123434 wasn't really appealing to me either. That's when I began playing an indie RPG game called Cultscape, an obvious clone of the major hit, but it didn't really matter. I was player number 58 instead. I interacted with all kinds of players there. Some were ultra competitive, competing for that rank 1 place, a big fish in a small pond. They obviously didn't pay attention to my hellos and what's ups. Others were more genuine. They recognized me as a newbie and taught me the best places to farm and trade. They graded me every time I logged on and made me feel like this was the world I could belong in. Dave _2011 was one of them. Dave, for short. He became my online friend, and instantly we WhatsApped. We spent many hours grinding our characters. His was much stronger at first. I didn't really know much about him, but I liked how I could share my insensitive, dark jokes with him, and he would always crackle with laughter. He was around my age too, and I found it liberating how much I could relate to his gaming lifestyle. We naturally became expanding to other games too. For the next 4 years of my life, he was my only friend. Cliche, I know. And the only person besides my parents who I could really talk to. The funny thing is, I didn't know much about him at all. He told me he lived in some major city in the States, and I quote, "My life is too boring and shit to talk about." I wasn't really bothered by it. In fact, it made me relate to him even more. And I instead focused more on ranking up my characters. After high school, I enrolled in some college and decided to get my shit together. I told Dave I got into some academic probation and could not gain much anymore. I gave him my email and told him we should keep in touch. He replied with a quick K, and that was it. Total silence from then on. Roughly a year ago, I received an email from Dave. It was sent to my work email. I was now working as some analyst after graduation. I didn't notice it at first because it was filtered as spam. Opening it, I was punched by deja vu. Title, Dave_2011. Message, Cultscape. OG boys, please be okay. I will save you soon. Once again. Totally bizarre, yet oddly recognizable. It was a habit of Dave to message something similar every time my swordsman character was in danger. I felt goosebumps down my neck. I was living a not-so-bad life. I was working in some suburban town. The last thing I felt was some powerful danger looming over me. Maybe this was his way of saying hello? He was always a little strange and unpredictable. And how did he have access to my work email? I replied with, "Hey Dave, haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? What do you mean by the message?" I received a reply an hour later. "Nothing much. It's been so long. How have you been?" "What do you mean?" I was not sure how to respond to this one. I checked the email that was sent to me. 0 emails received. That strange, quirky message had disappeared forever. I stared at the monitor in total consternation. Something just seemed so off. It could be a simple bug, a harmless prank, but it was so out of character too. I emailed the message that seemed most appropriate in this situation. Message, "Hey, it's been great. I think you might have been hacked. I received a strange email from you." Quick response, "I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, hop on to Cultscape sometimes. I drop by from time to time." And that was it. I somehow became the only person in the world aware of having ever received such a weird email. I shook my head and went back to my spreadsheets. A couple of months had passed. I had long forgotten about the message. Work deadlines and relationship issues. My start to adulthood had transformed into a real horror. I was going through my personal email the other day when I received a message. Click. Dave_2011 is not Dave_2011. Dave underscore 2011 is not. Dave is not Dave. Save you. What the hell? I was pretty stressed out with everything going on and exploded. I found myself spamming a message at him. Hey, I think of you as a good friend, but come on. This shit is getting ridiculous. Stop sending messages like this. This is some creepypasta. If you spam me again, I'm going to have to block your account. I don't want to. I did not receive a reply until the weekend. Hey, sorry for the late reply. I've been really busy with work. Maybe my account really has been hacked. I really don't know what you're talking about. If you receive a weird email again, contact Google and let them know. Thanks. Normally, people would just dismiss it at this point. But my hands were shaking, trembling. The first message was definitely written by Dave. It was a direct reference to our gaming days. He had saved me on my first day at the server, slaying a wolf when I didn't even know how to swing my sword. If this was an elaborate prank to spook me, why the wait? What was he trying to achieve with this? I began looking up Dave underscore 2011 online. Twitter, Facebook, virtually any social media and forums I could find. Finding Dave underscore 2011 was easy. Finding the correct one was not. Virtually any Dave who created a user in 2011 could be named the same. I narrowed it down to some game forums and traced back his route. I know this was not a chivalry act, but what the hell? I was getting gaslighted, and Dave was polluting a part of my young adulthood. Finally, I came to what I believed to be the correct Dave underscore 2011. Age matched. Same voice. An office worker, not specified, in Los Angeles. I lived a half hour away in Long Beach. I said, what the hell? I found the full address. I felt crappy having found this out online. I took my iced coffee tumbler and headed out. I know this was such a weird thing to do, going to an online user's house uninvited. But at that time, I justified it by telling myself that I was just trying to defend myself. Be the attacker. Be the creepy one. Maybe then, this prank or some sick joke will stop. I parked at a small park nearby and walked to a small townhouse situated around a cul-de-sac. It seemed a little old, but the roof was discolored and a streak of paint or bird poop ran down its window. But overall, it seemed like a typical house in a typical neighborhood. I knocked. My heart was pounding, like the first time I went on a roller coaster. This whole event seemed so wrong. Was I going through a quarter-life crisis? Doing something so unordinary and seemingly illegal, just so I could get an adrenaline rush? Too late now. The door swung open, and I found myself facing Dave_2011. Is that you, Steve? How? It's great to see you. Well, come on in. I was flabbergasted by the extreme friendliness. I forgot what I was going to say and walked in, feeling a little embarrassed having not brought a gift. Stupid. I was there to confront him. We sat down next to a coffee table. He brought me a delightful matcha tea, and we began to talk. He obviously started the conversation by asking how I found his address. I told him truthfully I wasn't trying to be a creep after all. I told him about the messages I received. I remembered to screenshot the last one as proof, and the stress I felt. He nodded apologetically, but reconvened to me that he really had no idea about the emails. He said that he would contact some customer service to see if he was getting hacked. I felt a sudden relief. The selfish truth was that this could have all been an excuse to meet my friend who defined my high school days. He barely talked in-game, and we both focused on fulfilling our role-playing duties, me as a swordsman and him as a tanker. I yearned to know who he was as a person because I felt like that would solidify our friendship or my past even further. It never really happened when I was a teenager, but maybe I still wanted to revisit this curiosity. I admitted to him that I should have let him know beforehand. I told him that I was really sorry for not trusting him and overreacting. It really was an overreaction after all. Just a couple of emails turning me into some sort of stalker? It was embarrassing to say the least. He chuckled, like how he would when I told him my dark humor jokes. It's alright. I'm just happy to see you finally, man. I know what you mean. We were gaming buddies, but we really bonded. We drank more tea, and I helped myself to some butter cookies. We talked about some games that we needed to catch up on. It was nostalgic, talking about some old games, and of course, about Coltscape. He was an active member of a prominent RPG community and laughed about how looking up his personal information would have felt like searching for a needle in a haystack without the forum presence. We shared some personal stories too. His coworkers began passive-aggressively bullying him, not speaking to him unless it was absolutely necessary. He laminated about how this had been happening every time he joined a new school or work. As our conversation trailed on, I couldn't help but think back on the first message he sent me. How only Dave could have referred to, "I will save you soon." I tried to erase it off my mind. I was puzzled by my own indecisiveness in judging my friend. After chasing down a dozen irresistible cookies, I felt like it was a good time to go. 2:45 p.m. I've stayed for just a little more than 2 hours. I got up to grab my coat. Hey, Steve. Before you go, I want to show you my man cave, Dave grinned. Been a huge collector of old school games and consoles. Here, follow me. He beckoned before I could respond. I followed him down the basement. Each step dimmed the staircase a little darker, and a faint smell of ragged clothes loomed around me. The moment we got to the bottom, Dave turned right and unlocked a wooden door. Probably worth over $100K in here. They can rob me, but they can't rob these. He smiled and swung the door open. Instantly, beams of LED lights blinded my sight. I opened my eyes again and saw colorful displays of monitors and countless sets of gaming rigs. Geez, I stammered. Just the right reaction. Here, I'll show you my old Cultscape account. He connected a mechanical keyboard into one of the rigs and clicked on the shortcut icon. Beam. The logo page was fired up, and a second later, Dave_2011 appeared on the dashboard. Cool. Look at these items I got. Dave sounded like his high school self again, unaware of his new identity as a corporate worker. 2:55 p.m. Remember the town of Clock and Rays? The boss battle? Sure, it was unpleasant. 2:58 p.m. Or that time we looted the Ancient One? What a day. Dave continued to take control of the keyboard, clicking on the left and right arrows instinctively. 3 p.m. Dave suddenly smashed the keys. Bam, 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 more specifically. He pressed on the keys really hard, like in a manic state. Yet, he was pressing all the keys at the right time. His character continued to slay the dragons and the goblins. I didn't really know how to react to this. Dave, you good, man? He turned around and I almost screamed. His eyes were wide, unnaturally so. His mouth stretched into a psychopathic smile, a grin that would make the Joker a superhero. Steve? Steve? Dave whispered as he rose from his seat. You see my character? He is strong. He is scary. Look, all these dragons, slain one after the other. Look, the blood is gushing out. That one is terrified right there. It almost got you that one day. That day, see? Look at my armor. He used his index finger to spam on the I key. The inventory menu kept flashing black and white. The key cracked under pressure. Tap, tap, tap. The mechanical screws and springs seemed to scream in agony. See? See? He grabbed on my shoulder. His fingers grasped hard, as if he was hanging onto them mid-air. I pushed him hard. Dave landed on a pile of the gaming rigs, face disappearing amidst the monitors. I panted. Fuck is wrong with you? I turned around and began running up the stairs. You know those times as a child, you are alone in a dark basement, and as the darkness clouds around you, you scramble up the stairs, and you refuse to look back because you know there is a terrifying entity chasing after you? I felt the deja vu. A childish feeling, albeit much, much more ghastly. This time, however, I looked back out of natural instinct. Dave's face was right behind me. He maintained that haunting smile. The pale skin, so bright amidst the blackness. he was holding a mace. "I will save you. I will fucking save you." He swung the mace and landed on my nape. I groaned and collapsed, tumbling back in the basement. My vision was distorted, and all I could see were clouds of red and green, possibly from the monitors close by. A hand gripped onto my t-shirt collar, and I found myself sliding across the barren floor. My legs feeling numb and cold. A door closed before me. A tornado of questions circled in my mind, but my muscles relaxed. I drifted into sleep. I opened my eyes to cry. I looked up and saw that I was in an empty room. A bottle of water was placed at one corner along with some toilet paper. A fluorescent light bulb was half working, just bright enough so I could tell objects apart. There seemed to be scribbles on the gray concrete walls. I. The counter? My heart sank when I saw that all 4 sides were completely filled with such lines. I grasped for my phone in my pocket but found only a dust ball. As my eyes got used to the darkness, I noticed that one wall had more than scribbles. On the top, I saw some kind of portrait. A face. I screamed in pure terror. Dave was looking at me through a translucent window. He grinned, the mouth stretching close to his ears. He began tapping on the wall. Steve? Steve? 2011. 2011. Steve? Colt, Dave whispered. The sudden laugh turned my goosebumps. I spent that day cowered in fear. I could not move my legs from all the shaking. I still felt dizzy from the attack and the trauma. I could not comprehend the situation, and my brain, thankfully, shut out my emotions and rationality. I drank a little bit of water and stared blankly into the wall. The worst was when Dave showed up. In a random interval, he would stare at me through the window and just smile. He stopped whispering or laughing. He continued to stare at me, and sometimes I thought I was hallucinating his appearance. But no, he was there. I cried. I pleaded for mercy. No reaction. I threatened him. I told him the police were coming. That I told my friends where I was going beforehand. He merely stared at me, smiling. The smile. The goddamned smile. I didn't know how many days had passed. I had finished the bottle and could only manage to lie down and breathe. I stopped groaning. I stopped looking up. I knew death was imminent. The darkness felt even darker, and I wondered if the Grim Reaper was entering my vicinity. I made what I thought would be my last decision. Dave, I know you are out there. Just come in and kill me. Please, that's the least you could do for me. I waited. The air was stale, and the silence made me feel even more numb. I used the last bit of energy to turn around and stare at the window. Please, Dave. I saw Dave staring back at me, but this time, he wasn't smiling. His face was contorted in pure fear. A tear rolled down Dave's eyes, and he dried it before he could reach his neck. Click. The door opened, and the man who locked me in for days and gave nothing but a haunting smile, hurried inside. Steve! What the hell happened to you? Dave cried. This wasn't meant to be. This wasn't... I thought you left. I thought you left after I showed you my character. He sobbed, and once again, even more profoundly, I had no idea how to react. Come on, lean against me. I will get you out of here. The man who once held a mace held his arm around me. He was gentle and patient as I took a second for each step. Suddenly, something flashed in, and I found myself basking in the sunlight. Tears streamed down my eyes and onto the wooden first floor. I know that this man had once attacked and left me to starve to death. A natural reaction should have been to fight him away and sprint out. But the man that stood in front of me seemed as puzzled as I was. Total confusion. Total fear. I just walked towards the front entrance in silence. You want me to come to the hospital with you? God damn it, I can't believe this happened, Dave muttered. I was at the foyer and limping forward. No. That will be okay. You sure? You sure, man? I can at least call the taxi for you. Dave offered me as if I had just been woken up after a house party. I really don't know what the hell happened. I didn't think this would happen. I swear. As I was about to mumble some gibberish, I saw the clock. 3 p.m. It really shouldn't have meant anything, but a flashback slammed in my vision. Dave frowned and turned around to see what I was gasping at. Even when I couldn't see the face, I could sense the same ominous presence. Adrenaline kicked in. I sprinted to the front door, twisted the lock, shaking as I was attempting, flung the door open, and then stumbled out into freedom. This all happened within seconds, but each heartbeat felt like a long, terrifying minute. I continued to run. Unlike the time in the staircase, I felt light following me instead of a shadow. When I was on the opposite side of the cul-de-sac, I turned around. I saw Dave on the front porch. He was smiling. Smiling. Fucking smiling. Thinking back now, I could have done much more. I could have knocked on the other houses. I could have screamed for help. But in that instance, all I wanted to do was get the hell out of the neighborhood and disappear into my comfort zone, known as my apartment. When I got back home, a complete blur of events, I called 911 right away and told the dispatcher everything that happened to me. The sweet voice on the other side of the line assured me that the police would send a task force as soon as they could. I called my girlfriend after, and she came to see me right away. I desperately needed to be with someone. I was terrified of being alone. I kept in contact with the police for as long as I could. Dave, or whoever that person was, had disappeared. His identity could not be traced back, and his landlord insisted that Dave must have committed identity fraud. I moved back into my parents' place for some time, which was very close to a local police station. I spent days researching about Dave, but could not find any information I had not known before. Weeks passed by, and my contact with the police started fading away. I still cannot sleep alone. My hands tremble as I am typing this. I don't know what has happened to Dave. I am unsure about the importance of 3 p.m. and the change of his personality. I have a few theories in mind, but it seems futile pondering over it. I started logging back into Cultscape. I check every day in the morning and night to see if the status icon beside Dave_2011 is online. It became an uncontrollable obsession. The gray offline status reassures me, but what if one day it turns green? Goosebumps. I push this thought away, but check again and again, just in case. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's story. Remember, if you would like to check it out, the link is in the description below. Also, you'll find down there all the links to my socials: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and my email, in case you would like to send me a spooky, scary story. Side note, holiday weekend. I know I did not post a story on Saturday. Again, holiday weekend. My bad. I will be back on track this week. I have more stories to bring you, and I can't wait for you guys to hear them. So make sure you're subscribed so you get those notifications. And I will see you guys next time. And remember, stay spooky and stay glamorous.